Hello, gamers, and welcome to a trailer breakdown, a deep dive into the new Indiana Jones game that we've just seen a teaser for here that is being made by Bethesda. So, if we just look at this first part, the Ancient Circles book over there, the author is Todd Howard. So, interesting little thing. Let's watch the trailer once, then I'm going to go back and analyze everything. Okay, cool. Um, so I'm very excited because I'm a big Indiana Jones fan. I love Star Wars. I love James Bond. So a lot of my uh, different things that I've liked ever since I was a kid, DC Comics games and stuff, Marvel games and such, all these things are coming to fruition. They're constantly in and out of development of different games here. So for me, I haven't seen a good Indiana Jones game since 2003, I believe, which was Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. That was published by LucasArts and developed by the Collective Inc. Um, and then also a recent entry, which I didn't play because it was on the Wii, June 9th, 2009, Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings. That was on Wii, Nintendo DS, PSP, and PS2, but I never actually saw that it was available on PS2. But it's been a good while since we've had a mainline true entry from LucasArts, which back in the day, LucasArts was the publisher that was licensing all these different Lucasfilm properties to various developers. And we really haven't seen anything, especially since LucasArts collapsed. But with the recent announcement this last week here about the Lucasfilm Games, which will essentially just sort of be a publishing studio that will probably hire out different developers for their properties. Well, today is a prime example of just that. So let's go ahead and analyze a little bit frame by frame here. This could be a reference to Sir Francis Drake, but given that we can't see what's written right here, there are obviously other Sir Francises throughout history that are well known. So, this game may not necessarily be going over uncharted territory here. Uncharted reference there. Forbidden Stones. There's a book on myths that made it. Ancient Circles. We have coffee cup there with a symbol that we'll talk about later. This here, ziggurat clue. So a ziggurat is these types of almost like a pyramid type structure there, and these were Mesopotamian. And so this type of structure here would probably be present in modern day Iraq. So moving on from there. Okay, he's got a map. You can see it just from the edge right here. I don't know why it's not obeying my commands. But if we go a few frames, Vatican City right there in the top left corner. And we can see the names of the roads here are, of course, in Italian. Of course, you got a diary there, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the movie. He always had a diary, a journal of some sort to keep notes in. Then we have this. There's a Bethesda Softworks stamp there. Research, archaeology. All this is kind of hard to read because the video is actually only available in 720p. Somewhat strange. We see a plane ticket there, overnight service to Rome. We're seeing various tools and stuff, compasses and whatnot, different things in the time period. Right there's our first clue. Who's developing this? This is Machine Games. Machine Games, some of the titles that they've developed. 2014, Wolfenstein: The New Order. 2015, Wolfenstein: The Old Blood. 2016, Quake: Dimension of the Past. That was on Windows. 2017, Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, which I played and absolutely loved. 2019, Wolfenstein Youngblood, follow-up to Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. This was a co-op game where you played as BJ's daughters. And then, of course, also in 2019, a VR title, Wolfenstein Cyberpilot. So, yeah, you're seeing people that are very experienced with Wolfenstein type games. You know, Youngblood and Cyberpilot were co-developed with Arcane Studios, whereas all the others, you know, are incredibly well done games. So how they will handle an Indiana Jones game is your guess is as good as mine, honestly. So we'll just have to wait and see. So continuing on here. And we see some photos here. We see a reference to Lucasfilm Games. We see things here. It says, I will be, you know, arriving in Rome and stuff. You know, this is all pretty blurry. My 2020 vision can't really pick that up. And because the camera is panning, it's really hard to read that. And then we're also seeing top secret documents, a gun, the whip, the hat. Whether any of these other things like the camera and the compass and other things be utilized in gameplay would be really cool. But we'll just have to go from there. Cool. So that's pretty much it as far as the trailer goes. Just kind of run it again silently there. It's going to be really interesting because we haven't had an Indiana Jones game for quite some time. You know, we're fresh off of the Tomb Raider trilogy that was revived in 2013, a big reboot there. And we've had 5 Uncharted games, well, 6 if you count the PS Vita one. We've had several Uncharted games as well. So, you know, we're used to a certain standard of treasure hunting games being action-packed third-person titles, which I think is obviously the best way to continue doing Indiana Jones games. I worry that with all these Wolfenstein games, we might be looking at a first-person game, but I don't generally, although there are some games like Far Cry and such that have pulled off kind of an action adventure exploration vibe in first person camera modes, and you know, obviously games like Outlast and others have immersed you in different ways and created that atmosphere. I don't know that that's a good idea for Indiana Jones. You'd really want to show off his fighting style, the physics. He's a real rugged and brutal fighter. You know, a lot of his fighting techniques are uppercuts, backhands, you know, grabs and throws. In the Emperor's Tomb video game, he would use the whip to disarm enemies of their weapons. He could whip them at the neck and sort of pull them towards him, so it was used as a grapple mechanic as well. He could also grab enemies and punch and uppercut them and such. His canteen was used. You could refill his canteen and drink the water in order to heal, which was kind of a clever mechanic at the time. And, you know, you used the whip for traversal. You used it in combat instances. And there were also, you know, on-rail driving, shooting sequences in the game. And, you know, it was widely a critically well-received game back in those days. But that was original Xbox, PS2 era there. Back in 2003. So what we can expect for this one, I'm hoping lots of puzzle solving type stuff, really good combat action sequences. it doesn't necessarily have to be big bombastic set pieces. Um, but Indiana Jones has always had, you know, sort of a grounded in reality stunts and fighting and stuff like that. So nothing too over the top as far as that goes. But they have always been really good action movies, and anytime that the Indiana Jones movies have deviated from computer generated animations and such, anytime they did, practical effects, even if it was figurines and clay and all sorts of other things that they've utilized in the past, I think all that stuff ages much better than a lot of fake CGI stuff. Compromise rather than having stuntmen and such do actual sequences of that. So I'm thinking third person puzzles, fighting, interesting traversal. Um, Not necessarily open world, but it could be a possibility. A lot of these Wolfenstein games did have, fairly big hub world areas. If we look at Wolfenstein 2, I know that one, you would sort of enter a level and it would be a large area that you could explore and defeat enemies. And that could be a very similar thing here. Think the Uncharted games, think Tomb Raider. I think more freedom for exploration and discovering interesting artifacts. And if we're headed to Rome, I'm assuming, whatever we're chasing after, or if there are multiple artifacts that we will get throughout the journey. Some of that stuff could be Christian in nature, which is always a good strong point for these games. Um, it was always really interesting, Indiana Jones going after the Ark of the Covenant, going after the Holy Grail, the cup that Christ drank from. Um, Both interesting. Of course, Temple of Doom, I love it as well. But there's something about Christian artifacts sort of rooted somewhat in reality, uh and Nazis, and you got to be punching some Nazis, so that's going to be fun. Anyway, I think that's all that we have on this one. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative. Please consider subscribing to the channel. We are pushing as hard as we can this year to create lots of content and move towards a YouTube partnership at some point. So thank you for watching this Indiana Jones Bethesda game being developed by Machine Games, published by Lucasfilm Games. Take care, and we'll see you next time.